Welcome to Mostly AI. I'm Derek Kane. A quick note, outside of my role as host, this podcast is entirely AI generated. Let's get into it.
Something happened recently that most people filed under tech drama and moved on. But if you know how to read the signal beneath the noise, it's actually one of the more revealing moments in the short, strange history of artificial intelligence. I'm talking about the Claude Code source code leak. And today, we're going to unpack why it matters. Not as a scandal, but as a window into where we are all headed, faster than most organizations are ready for.
And I think that's exactly the right framing. Because the instinct when something like this happens is to focus on the breach. Who leaked it, what Anthropic is doing about it, the legal dimensions, all of that is real. But the more interesting question is, what does the architecture itself tell us? What were they building and why does it look the way it does?
Right. So let's start there. What did the Claude Code leak actually reveal, architecturally speaking?
So Claude Code, for listeners who aren't familiar, is Anthropic's agentic coding assistant. And what the leaked source showed, at least in the portions that circulated, is a system designed not just to answer questions about code, but to act on code, to plan a sequence of steps, execute them, observe the results, and iterate. It has tool use baked in at a deep level. File system access, terminal execution, the ability to call external APIs. It's not a chatbot that happens to know Python. It's an agent that happens to communicate in natural language.
And that distinction between a tool and an agent is the crux of everything we're going to talk about today, because I think a lot of enterprises are still operating with a tool-shaped mental model of AI. They think, I ask it something, it answers, I decide what to do next. But that's not what's being built anymore.
Not even close. An AI tool is reactive. You prompt it, it responds, the loop closes. An AI agent is proactive, or at least it's designed to be. It receives a goal, not just a query. It breaks that goal into a plan, it executes steps autonomously, it monitors its own outputs, it adjusts when something doesn't work, and critically, it can invoke other tools, other agents, other systems as part of that loop.
So when we look at the Claude Code architecture and we see that deep tool use scaffolding, what we're really seeing is a blueprint for autonomous software development. Not help me write a function, more like here is the feature we need, here are the constraints, go build it, test it, and tell me when it's done.
Exactly. And that's not science fiction. That's what the architecture is pointing toward. The leak didn't reveal anything that wasn't already directionally obvious to people watching the space closely, but it confirmed it. It showed the internal wiring, and the wiring is agentic all the way down.
So let's talk about timing, because one of the things I keep coming back to is, why does this feel like an inflection point right now? AI has been about to change everything for a while. What's different?
Well, a few things are converging simultaneously, and that convergence is what makes this moment genuinely different from the hype cycles of the past. First, the models themselves have crossed a capability threshold. The reasoning, the context windows, the tool use reliability, it's all materially better than it was even 18 months ago. Second, the infrastructure for deploying agents has matured. You have orchestration frameworks, you have reliable APIs, you have cloud environments purpose-built for agentic workloads. And third, and this is the one people underestimate, the cost of running these systems has dramatically dropped.
Which means the economics of automation have fundamentally shifted.
Dramatically. Tasks that would have required a team of engineers to automate because the engineering cost exceeded the value are now within reach for a single agent running on commodity compute. And here's the compounding dynamic that should be keeping enterprise leaders up at night. The organizations that deploy agents now are building institutional knowledge, refined workflows, and data feedback loops that will make their agents smarter over time. The gap between early movers and late movers isn't linear. It compounds.
Let's get concrete, because I think this is where the conversation gets really useful for people who are trying to figure out what to actually do with this. What does enterprise automation look like when you move from AI tools to AI agents?
So let's walk through a few real patterns. Data pipelines. This is one of the most immediate wins. An agent can monitor data sources, detect schema drift, rewrite transformation logic, validate outputs, and alert humans only when something genuinely requires judgment. That's a workflow that currently requires constant human babysitting. An agent handles the routine 90% autonomously.
And code generation, which is obviously close to home given the Claude Code context.
Right. But again, the shift is from generate a snippet to own a feature. An agent can take a ticket from a project management system, understand the code-based context, write the implementation, write the tests, run them, fix failures, and submit a pull request, with a human reviewing the output rather than producing it. That's a fundamental inversion of the development loop.
Workflow orchestration is another one that I think is underappreciated, because so much enterprise work is actually coordination work, moving information between systems, triggering downstream processes, making routing decisions based on data states.
And agents are extraordinarily well suited to that. They can sit at the intersection of your CRM, your ERP, your data warehouse, your communication tools, and act as an intelligent connective tissue, not just passing data, but interpreting it, flagging anomalies, escalating edge cases, making low-stakes decisions autonomously, and surfacing high-stakes ones for human review. That's decision support at a level that wasn't practically achievable before.
Now, here's where I want to push on something, because I think this is where a lot of enterprise AI initiatives go wrong. There's a temptation to treat agents as bolt-on experiments. You spin up a proof of concept in a sandbox, it works beautifully, and then you try to connect it to your actual data environment and everything falls apart.
Oh, the sandbox to production gap. It's real and it's painful because the agent in the sandbox is working with clean, well-structured, well-documented data. And then you connect it to the actual enterprise data fabric, which is messy, siloed, inconsistently governed, and spread across 15 different systems. And suddenly the agent is making decisions based on incomplete or contradictory information.
Which is why the integration imperative is so critical. The agent is only as good as the data it can see, trust, and reason over. If your data fabric is fragmented, your agents will be fragmented. If your pipelines are unreliable, your agents will be unreliable. The intelligence layer and the data layer are not separable concerns.
And this is actually one of the deeper lessons from the Claude Code architecture, if you look at it carefully. The tool use scaffolding isn't just about capability, it's about grounding. The agent needs reliable, structured access to real-world state. Without that grounding, you get hallucination at the workflow level, not just the sentence level. The agent confidently executes a plan based on data that doesn't reflect reality.
So for organizations that are serious about moving from AI experimentation to AI native operations, what does the path actually look like?
It starts with the data foundation. You need your data to be accessible, governed, and trustworthy before you layer agents on top of it. That means unified pipelines, clear lineage, consistent schemas, and the kind of observability that lets you audit what an agent saw when it made a decision. And honestly, most organizations need a partner for that. Not because they lack intelligence, but because the integration work is genuinely complex and the stakes of getting it wrong are high.
And this is where I want to mention ClearData AI, ClearDataAI.ai, because what they do is precisely this integration work. They help enterprises build the data infrastructure that makes agentic AI actually viable in production. Not the demo, not the proof of concept, the real thing, woven into your existing systems, governed, observable, and ready to support autonomous workflows at scale. If you're at the point where you're asking, how do we actually do this? That's the conversation worth having with them.
And I think the framing I'd offer is this. The question isn't whether AI agents are coming to your industry. That question is settled. The question is whether you're building the foundation now that will let you deploy them effectively, or whether you'll be retrofitting that foundation under pressure 2 years from now, while competitors who moved earlier are already compounding their advantage.
There's something I find genuinely moving about this moment, if I'm honest, because what we're really talking about beneath all the architecture and the economics and the enterprise strategy is a new kind of collaboration between human intelligence and machine intelligence. Not replacement, not subordination, integration. The agent handles the volume, the routine, the pattern matching at scale. The human brings judgment, values, context, and the wisdom to know which decisions matter. That's not a diminishment of human work. That's a liberation of it.
Beautifully put. And I think that's the frame that makes this feel less threatening and more generative. The age of AI agents isn't the age of human obsolescence. It's the age of human leverage. We get to do more of what only we can do because the agents are doing more of what they can do better than us.
The code is out, the architecture is visible, the direction is clear. The only real question is how intentionally you move toward it. Thanks for being here today. And if this conversation sparked something for you, share it, dig into it, and start asking the questions that matter for your organization. We'll see you next time.
Until then, keep integrating.
You've been listening to Mostly AI, a podcast built with AI-generated content, production, and audio elements. Thanks for being here. Until next time.